I know that I've already said that The Broadway Melody is probably the worst Best Picture to ever win the award, but I have found the worst Best Picture winner of all time. Not you. But Cimarron is really giving it a run for its money. If it fits! Cimarron, starring Richard Dix and Irene Dunne, is the adaptation of an Edna Ferber novel, who also wrote Showboat, which was adapted into a Broadway musical, and Giant, which was adapted into a 1956 film starring James Dean. It premiered on February 9th, 1931. Fair warning, spoilers ahead. We meet Fancy Yancey Cravat,
who loves being fancy,
as he's participating in the Oklahoma land rush of 1889, setting out to claim some prime real estate and start a new ranch with his wife and young son. Maybe that's what these men are talking about. I have no idea what they're saying. But mere steps away from the land he was going to claim, he's tricked by a woman by the name of Dixie Lee, and he has the land stolen right from under his nose. And let me just say how outrageous I think that is. This poor man having his land snatched away from him like that. Unacceptable. Anyway, he decides to pack up his wife and son and head out west anyway to the fictional boomer town of Osage, Oklahoma, where he decides he'll 1. Start a local newspaper, and 2. Immediately begin killing people. To be fair, the first man he kills is an outlaw who murdered the first newspaper publisher, and the second is another outlaw that we assume Yancey has worked with before in some capacity in the past. Yancey's past is a little sketchy. 5 years pass, some more land opens up in Oklahoma, and Yancey just can't wait to abandon his wife, son, and newborn daughter to participate in the land run of 1893. So he saddles up and heads out, leaving his wife, Sabra, to run the newspaper. He returns 5 years later, and remember Dixie Lee, the woman who so unjustly stole his land at the beginning of the film? Well, she's a sex worker, and she happens to be on trial for being a public nuisance. And Yancey, in addition to being a newspaper publisher and a preacher, is also a trial lawyer. He gets her acquitted by revealing tons of personal information about her. The town continues to grow and expand. Yancey wants to fight for the rights of the indigenous people while his wife hates them. He ditches his family again, but his wife becomes a member of Congress, and then he dies trying to rescue people from an explosion at an oil drilling site. What? Cimarron wants to be this big, sweeping epic showing the creation of the American West and glorifying the men and women who participated in it. And it starts out that way. The opening scene of the Oklahoma land rush of 1889 is impressive. There were over 5,000 costume extras involved and more than 28 cameramen. However, even though it's impressive, I don't find it all that exciting. Nowhere near as exciting as some of the battle scenes in All Quiet on the Western Front, and that's because it doesn't feel like there are any stakes. I'm thrown in this situation, and the importance of Yancey getting to this specific plot of land doesn't really hit until the scene ends and he's lost it. And I felt that way through the entire movie. It's more a series of vignettes that I'm expected to care about before I'm ever given a reason to. And once I understand why I'm supposed to care, we're on to the next. It's a little bit of nature of the beast, trying to tell a story that spans 50 years, but I think there was enough drama there that it could have worked. The sound didn't help either. This film was impossible to understand. Richard Dix gives a huge over-the-top performance as Yancey,
knowing no law except the law of God and the government of these United States,
that I eventually grew to appreciate by the end of the film. He's a man who can't stand still, and he's always itching for the next adventure. I think the movie wants us to see him as the embodiment of the American spirit and someone to admire, but I think there's a darker, more tragic aspect to the way he acts, like abandoning his wife and children for most of their lives, that the film and the performance never really grapples with. The best thing about the film is Irene Dunne, who plays Sabra, Yancey's wife. Her transformation from a scared, sheltered, bigoted housewife to an independent, open-minded congresswoman's really wonderful. Her performance is by far the most consistent and fleshed out thing in the entire film. And I guess is fairly progressive for 1931. Edna Ferber has said that she intended Cimarron to be a satire of American sentimentality and American womanhood. I have not read the novel, but that does not translate to this film adaptation. This is a film that, to me, seems very earnest in its progressive intentions in regards to race and feminism.
Furthermore, the time has come to give the full citizenship so he can live as free as the white man lives.
All the while putting forth a slew of racist stereotypes and caricatures, the primary victim being Isaiah. I do think that the film thinks it's doing its part by having Yancey treat Isaiah with kindness, but all it really does is prop up Yancey, making him look like a benevolent character while using Isaiah as either the butt of the joke or a cheap moment of tragedy when he gets shot and killed. And even then, we focus on Yancey's grief, not really caring about the death of Isaiah. Just know, if you're going to watch this film, and unless you're trying to watch all the Best Picture winners like me, I'm not sure that you should, that there's more than the baseline of 30s racism in here. Most movies in this era have like a baseline of racism. This one is just a step above that. But that didn't stop it from winning the Best Picture Oscar at the 4th Academy Awards ceremony, which took place on November 10th, 1931. It was nominated for 7 and took home 3 awards that night: Best Picture, Best Writing Adaptation, and Best Art Direction. It was the first Western to win Best Picture and the only Western to win the award until Dances with Wolves in 1990. And I still can't believe that City Lights and Frankenstein came out this same year and weren't even nominated for Best Picture. You can check out a couple of my other videos about those films right there, and make sure to subscribe so you can hear me talk about the 1932 Best Picture winner, Grand Hotel. Thanks for watching.